Some places aren't just cursed, they're alive, breathing, watching, waiting. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains lies Black Hollow, a place shrouded in fear and whispered about in the dark corners of small-town diners. I thought I was brave, thought I could uncover its secrets for a story. But what I found there, what I barely escaped, has left me haunted forever. And now, I'm sharing this with you. Listen closely, because once you know about Black Hollow, it knows about you. It all started with a job. A local magazine was running a feature on mysterious Appalachian folklore, and as their go-to writer for anything eerie, I was the obvious choice. The editor casually mentioned Black Hollow as a potential lead, a place known for its ghost stories, unexplained disappearances, and sinister energy. The locals wouldn't talk much about it, except to offer dire warnings. To me, the name sounded like an opportunity, a forgotten legend, ripe for exposure. I packed my gear, eager to dig into whatever dark history the Hollow might be hiding. I arrived in a tiny mountain town on the outskirts of Black Hollow, just before sundown. The town itself seemed to shrink under the shadow of the surrounding forest, its weathered buildings slouching with age. At the only gas station, I decided to test the waters. "You're not from around here," the attendant said, barely looking up from his crossword puzzle. "Nope," I replied with a smile. "I'm a writer. Heard about a place nearby. Black Hollow?" The reaction was immediate. His hand froze and his face turned pale. Without meeting my eyes, he muttered, "You don't want to go there. Nothing but bad things come out of that place." When I pressed for more details, he gave me a piece of advice. "If you're smart, you'll leave before it gets dark." Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "If you must go, take the unmarked road past Devil's Ridge. But don't say I didn't warn you." That unmarked road was easy to miss. Barely more than a dirt path, it twisted into the dense forest like a serpent. As I turned onto it, I noticed how quickly the sunlight faded. It wasn't just the canopy of trees blotting out the sky. This darkness felt unnatural, as if the hollow itself was swallowing the light. My car bumped and jolted along the uneven track. My GPS had long since lost its signal, leaving me with only the road ahead and a sense of unease that grew with every mile. The trees crowded closer, their twisted branches forming grotesque shapes that seemed to shift and writhe in my peripheral vision. Then, the radio crackled. At first, it was just static, sharp and grating. But then, through the noise, a voice emerged. Faint, distorted and chillingly calm. "Turn back," it whispered. I froze, my hand hovering over the radio dial. The voice came again, more insistent this time. "Turn back now." My heart pounded as I scanned the road ahead, half expecting to see someone standing there. But there was nothing, just the oppressive darkness and the suffocating stillness of the forest. I told myself it was just a rogue signal, interference bouncing through the mountains. But the voice stayed with me, a cold weight pressing on my chest. The road seemed endless, looping and twisting until time lost all meaning. The world outside my car felt like a void, and my headlights barely cut through the gloom. Just when I was ready to turn around, the forest opened into a clearing, and I saw it. Black Hollow Manor. The house loomed before me like a forgotten relic of nightmares. Its Victorian facade was warped and decayed, its once grand windows now dark and lifeless. Ivy crawled up its sides like veins, and the air around it seemed heavier, colder. I parked my car, the crunch of gravel beneath the tires breaking the eerie silence. My breath fogged in the unnatural chill as I stepped out. The door to the manor was slightly ajar, creaking softly in the breeze. For a moment I hesitated. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But curiosity, damn curiosity, drove me forward. The floorboards groaned beneath my boots as I crossed the threshold into the shadowy interior. The air inside was thick with dust and the scent of rot. Cobwebs stretched across every corner, and the faded wallpaper peeled like dead skin. My flashlight barely illuminated the room, its beam swallowed by the oppressive darkness. In the parlor, I found a desk covered in yellowed papers and brittle books. One book caught my eye, a leather-bound journal, its cover marked with strange symbols. The handwriting inside was frantic, the words scrawled as if in desperation. "Do not go to the basement," one entry read. "It's not empty down there. It never is." A cold shiver ran down my spine. I told myself I was here for answers, for a story. But as I stood there in the oppressive silence of that house, I wasn't so sure anymore. My flashlight flickered, the beam sputtering like a dying flame. I tapped it, but the light refused to stabilize. And then, from somewhere deep within the house, I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible. But it grew louder, closer, echoing through the hollow halls. I followed the sound, my steps hesitant and my breath shallow. It led me to a door at the end of a narrow corridor, a door that creaked open on its own as I approached. Behind it, a staircase spiraled into darkness. The basement. The air grew colder as I descended, each step feeling like a leap into an abyss. The smell of damp earth and decay grew stronger, mingling with something metallic, something that made my stomach churn. At the bottom, my flashlight revealed a cavernous space carved into the rock. Symbols like those on the journal's cover were etched into the walls, glowing faintly with an unnatural light. And in the center of the room stood a mirror. The mirror was ancient, its surface tarnished and cracked. But when I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw shadows, shifting, writhing shadows that seemed to reach for me. And then something moved behind me. I spun around, but the cavern was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, the shadows had taken form. A figure stood there, impossibly tall and thin, its face obscured by a veil of darkness. My flashlight flickered violently and the air grew heavier, pressing down on me like a physical weight. The figure stepped closer in the mirror, its clawed hands reaching for the glass. And then, the glass shattered. The sound was deafening, a cacophony that reverberated through the cavern. I stumbled back, my flashlight falling from my hand and plunging the room into near total darkness. And that's when I felt it. Cold fingers brushed against my arm, followed by a low guttural growl that sent a jolt of terror through my body. I ran, the echoes of my footsteps mingling with the inhuman sounds that followed. The house seemed alive as I fled. Doors slammed, walls groaned, and the very floor seemed to shift beneath me. By the time I reached the front door, I was breathless, my chest heaving as though I'd run a marathon. But the nightmare wasn't over. Outside, the forest was alive with movement. Shadows darted between the trees, and the wind carried a chorus of whispers that sent chills down my spine. My car was the only sanctuary, and I didn't stop running until I was inside, locking the doors and slamming my hand on the ignition. As I sped away, the headlights briefly illuminated a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was the same figure I'd seen in the mirror, its dark form barely visible against the trees. Even now, safe in my home, I feel its presence. Black Hollow doesn't let you leave, not entirely. Its shadows cling to you, its whispers echo in your mind. And at night, when the world is quiet and the darkness closes in, I can feel its cold fingers reaching for me once again. Thank you for watching. If this story sent chills down your spine, let us know by hitting the like button. And if you're brave enough, subscribe to the channel for more horrifying tales that'll keep you awake at night. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story.